Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. New reports show Vladimir Putin financing some anti-fracking movements in the United States. And OPEC Secretary General says not so fast with the cheap oil and predicts crude to rise above $200 per barrel. Also, the EU is feeling a little bit unsteady as Greece is looking for more bailouts. And the U6 and U3 unemployment numbers have the Gallup CEO questioning the administration. That's a big one to me, that any CEO of a organization like Gallup would come out and say that the unemployment number that the administration uses is a lie. That's his exact words.
Well, I think it may have been a kind of a raw statement, but he made the point. He got people's attention. It is a distortion. I wouldn't say it's a lie. Yes, if you go to the big companies and how many people they have working and how many people they've laid off, probably 5.6% of the biggies is probably true. But the bulk of our employment in this country is in small businesses and businesses that are privately owned.
So let's say, for example, the guy who owns the pizza store.
Yeah.
And he goes out of business. He's not counted as being unemployed, even though he has no job.
It's worse than that.
Or let's say the guy that's been unemployed for 3 years and can't find a job. He gets dropped off and is no longer counted.
You know, we have a population of 320 million. Do you realize that there's 60 or 70 million people that have chosen to just take government input rather than go to work? Not because they're not good people, but they've given up. There are no jobs for them. And it's called labor force participation, which is about as low as it's been in this country since the end of the Second World War.
93 million people are not working.
Well, it's exactly.
You just said we had 320, so that leaves a lot of people not working.
Yes.
But they're all eating.
Well, because the government has shifted a lot of their money into giving these people, they call it food stamps. It's actually paying people off for not working.
You know, Rush had a great quote. This goes back a couple of years, but he said our safety net has become a hammock.
Well, you know, the reason I don't like that is it's not that these people don't want to work. It's there are two things that have happened. One is the government mismanagement we all know about, but our technology has accelerated to the point we don't need as many people on mass production jobs. I think I mentioned this before, but when the first company that I worked for became president when I was 32, we had 412 employees. We were doing about $6-7 million of business. I figured out one night I didn't have anything better to do. I found out instead of 412 people, we could do the same thing with 50 people a day.
What?
Yes, with 50 people, with the kind of machinery. This was a company that had a foundry, machine shop, what they call a finishing department. Today, those big hands-on jobs aren't needed anymore. And on top of that, the craftsmen, the maintenance men, the engineers, the people that were hands-on, there's no place to train them. Trade schools don't exist anymore.
Well, and we can also take it to another extent that is very close to you. There's a lot of people that are now writing stories, doing their own blogs, getting involved with sports, movies, entertainment, whatever. You don't need those writers that you had at the Chicago Tribune or the Los Angeles Times or USA Today or what have you.
Well, you just brought out the reason why I'm now writing for USA Today. They don't have any more.
Top heavy?
No. They
payroll heavy?
They've got contributors, me,
right.
and others.
Okay, Greece is looking for another bailout. Germany is saying absolutely no, and the EU is looking at it's very unsteady. What is going to happen here with Greece and with the EU? Are they going to break up?
Well, there's a better chance of that breakup happening today than it was 6 months ago or a year ago. When the euro first came out in 1999, the German Chancellor Helmut Kohl felt that Germany had a price to pay for what they did to the world during the Second War.
Guilt.
Guilt. He had a guilt feeling, and the euro was built on guilt because the mark was, along with the pound and the dollar and the yen were the major currencies in the world. So he took the mark off the market, so to speak, and came out with the euro, which meant Germany was supporting every other member of the Eurozone, which were about 18 countries out of 28 or 29, which make the European community. So it started out with it took $1.17 to buy 1 euro back in 1999. Well, over a period of time, it actually went. It was more distorted in favor of
Around
the euro.
2004, 2005,
Yeah,
the euro was worth a lot more than the dollar.
135, 140, 150. Well, the one country that kind of stayed out of it, and they stayed out of everything. They played both sides against the middle. There are two countries.
Britain?
One is Sweden and one is Switzerland. And no, Britain chose not to be part of the Eurozone, which were smart enough. But I'm talking about as far as getting involved in anything with the rest of Europe. So the Swiss franc was pegged at $1.20 Swiss francs to the euro. Well, that was a phony figure because it should have been a lot more in favor of the Swiss franc. Well, finally, the reason that they were balancing it, the Swiss were buying euros to keep down the price of the Swiss franc so that their exports could be cheaper to be competitive.
Currency manipulation?
Absolutely. They finally, a couple of months ago, they decided they're not going to spend all that money anymore. They took the lid off the Swiss franc, and the Swiss franc soared, and the euro went down. And right now, the euro is in the worst shape it's been in because there's only one country that's supporting them, and they're not doing too well either.
What do you do with Greece at this point? Do you just drop them off and let them figure it out on their own? Do you keep bailing them out and supporting them?
Well,
and when you say bail them out, America is the one that bails out the ECB.
It's worse than that because the political party that's controlling Greece now is a communist party. In fact, they are the grandchildren of the Elas, who were the communist partisans who first fought the Germans and then they fought the British, and the Edis, who were the monarchists. So this is a communist type of government that they have now. So I think they may just decide to just get out of it and not pay off their long bonds. You know, Europe is the only country in the world that issues 100-year bonds. Well,
talk about kicking the can down the road.
Well, Greece is going to say one of these days, we're not going to pay off, so sue us. And Greece can't. They don't have the productivity. They don't have the products. It isn't that there aren't good people. There's good people everywhere. But the point is, they don't have the production. They don't have the tangible assets in order to generate profits.
That's why they're selling islands to Saudi princes for cheap.
That's right, and I think they're talking about taking some of their old monuments and
turning them into tourist
havens. Yeah.
What do you make of the UN's or OPEC's Secretary General, claiming that oil is going to go back up over $200? Is that rhetoric?
That has got to be rhetoric. I don't see any. When somebody makes a statement like that, and somebody who's in charge of a major organization like OPEC, or he's a big figure in it, he's executive director. I think what he's doing is he's trying to calm a lot of nervous people, like the people in Iran, the people in Russia that are not happy with the fact,
Venezuela.
Or Venezuela. Yes, those are the three countries. If you could bring that price back up to $80 or $90, it would probably maybe not totally salvage their problem, but it would make them a lot easier. And you talked about Putin borrowing money so he could bribe some American organization. Russia the ruble isn't worth anything today. They're going to be in a very great deficit situation this year. Russia was supposed to have about a 2.5% growth this year. They'll be lucky to have a better than a 4% deficit.
Which I've just heard some on the administration touting a 2% growth as being, fireworks and gangbusters. 2% growth is not very, it's pretty pathetic, is it not?
It is. It's the only time in the history of this country that we followed up a recession or a depression with anything. Usually the best times are when you break out of it, like Reagan did in the 1980s. I mean, he was up 6, 7, 8% because we were enthused, we were accelerated, we were going places. Ever since the end of March 9th was the low point of our great financial recession. Well, the only thing that's done well is the stock market, and the stock market has done well because the rest of the world is pouring money into this country because it got no place else to go.
And doesn't a lot of it have to do with the Fed pumping money into the stock market?
They did for a while, but it's I'm glad you mentioned that. But the Fed stopped putting money. They were putting in $80 billion every month for about 2 or 3 years. Well, you'd think that was what was keeping the rates down. The rates are lower now than the end of October when the Fed got out of that business. One of the reasons the Fed was doing it, somebody had to put a price on those mortgage-backed derivatives. They weren't worth anything, and their arteries were clogged. They couldn't lend any money because they had all this no price stuff on their balance sheet. So the Fed put a price on them by buying them.
Have you been hearing any rumors about going back to the subprime mortgages? I've been hearing little voices here and there talking about that.
I don't think. I think what's happened is that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who are really supporting, they're not banks in the sense of dealing directly with people, but they are the guarantors of all federal banks that are approved by the Fed, and they are going down to 3% down payment to buy a house or a condo or whatever.
And it's been very difficult to get a loan, so I guess they're trying to ease that market up.
Oh, absolutely. They're trying to push it.
Don't go anywhere. Our Global Outlook, Political Insider, and The Moment in History are coming up. If you want to watch the show or catch any of our segments, it's simple and free. Just log on to our website, theworldreport.org. And remember, if you want to ask Maury a question, just email your question or video to Maury@theworldreport.org. And remember to like us, recommend us, and leave comments. For the latest news updates, visit newsmax.com. We'll be right back.